Hi, I'm Coach Amber, and welcome to the Meet RX Success Story podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, George, and he will be talking about his success with a meat-based diet. Welcome, George.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, George, let's get down to business because you have got a lot to say. Let's hear about what your health was like prior to a meat-based diet. Tell us everything that was going on.
So from the time I was little, I was raised on Long Island, and I was very much fed the New Yorker version of the standard American diet. Margarine was in there. There was a lot of pizza, a lot of bagels, a lot of Chinese food, a lot of pasta. We didn't have soda in the house, but I drank it like a junkie every time I could get my hands on it, because a child's mind is no match for caffeine and sugar. No match. As I got older, I was, active. I snowboarded, I skateboarded, I played varsity and travel hockey, things like that. But after high school ended, that was when things started to spiral out and down and out of control. My mental state was declining through most of my life. The first, though, condition was IBS. That was at 11 because of my trash gut health. The next one was Epstein-Barr virus at 16. At 23 or 4, I was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy. At 29, I got a really bad case of Lyme disease, and I had the bullseye. Like, it was that big. I had a deer tick in my back for, I think, 20 hours before it was excised. My physician seems to think there's a connection between that and the MS. And then at 31 came the MS. So in my 20s, with the terrible gut health, and while I was living in Philly especially, which is a really negative quantum yield environment with all sorts of madness going on, I was also a drug addict. I abused hard drugs for 8 years, and it was all a consequence of terrible gut health. Like, now, I've been off the junk for... it's about 3.5 years now, with the exception of one time last spring, which I'll get into, but it was, I finally was getting my life back together, because I had a weird run of things in 2017. I detailed out on my personal channel rehab disaster, but they got worse and worse and worse. And after MS got me, which I'll get into, my first flare lasted 2 months. It slowly was coming on from the previous spring. My balance was getting worse and my eyesight was getting worse. Like, slowly, but my eyesight would spot out here and there, but the optic neuritis got to a point where I had lost 60% of my eyesight. And this was after a root canal one weekend, because I was working doing lawns and I was getting my teeth fixed. I was putting myself back together after a lifetime of just abject self-destruction. And I then developed these crazy symptoms. At first, it felt like pressure in my right ear, like I thought I had an ear infection of some sort. And a few days later was when the vertigo set in. It was equivalent to drunk spins. Like, for 2 straight months, it was that. I lost all use of the right side of my body. I couldn't take a step unassisted. I would fall down all the time. Like, at least once a day, and the nausea and vomiting that went with the vertigo were, right on point with the whole drunk spins thing. I first heard about Wall's protocol, though, for MS shortly after being diagnosed. I was told about that, so I tried it. I went paleo, or what I thought was, but I was still taking a lot of supplements. I was using plant oils, like seed oils and stuff like that. I liked butter, I liked animal fats, but I didn't understand how valuable they actually were. So the fall of 2019 to September of 2020 was a very, very rough time. It was the worst of my life by far. I picked up the drugs one day last spring because I was suicidal. My girlfriend saved my life because I had no intention of surviving this bender, because I was treated with Ocrevus, that was my first biologic, and then Rituxan, which was equally miserable. But the Ocrevus put me in such a bad place, and they had me on Abilify too at the time. And I didn't want to do, I thought to myself, if this is going to be my new normal, if this is going to be how my life is destined to play out, I'm not having it. And I was spiteful that my life was saved for a little while. Like, I was genuinely spiteful about it. But now, thank you, Candace, for saving my life. You're an angel. Like, I thanked her from the bottom of my heart on New Year's Eve for pulling that off. So, the carnivore thing, like, when I was doing the paleo stuff, I was eating a lot of meat, but it wasn't like high quality stuff. It wasn't, I wasn't into organ meats or bone marrow or anything like that. But one day, I guess in August, this would have been, I heard, like, I was familiar with ShawnBaker. I was familiar with Michaela Peterson and her success. But I heard Paul Saladino on Aubrey Marcus's podcast, and he went deep on the subject of plant toxicity and anti-nutrients and oxalates and phytoalexins and all of those other wacky plant chemicals that serve us no real good. And it was really kind of eye-opening, but also his energy and his knowledge was something I just kind of envied, because I was pretty much vegetative for a whole year. I could barely form sentences. I was bedridden 23 hours a day, minimum. I was still falling down all the time. I had no energy to do anything. Like, taking a shower was like a once weekly chore. I was peeing the bed. You know, like, my bladder control, like, it ceased to exist. My eyesight was, I don't know how much better it is now, but the last time I had a visual field test done, I'm still out 25% peripherally in each eye. I think it's improved a lot though, but last year I was 60% blind in both eyes. Like, I couldn't have told you the time it was on my phone. It was like that. And so that just kind of, that was like the light bulb in the old cartoons that comes on when the character gets an idea. I was just like, all right, so I love meat. I have always loved meat. So let me try this. But, I went to Eat Wild, found a place near me, which is an hour drive each way, but all their beef's grass-fed, grass-finished. And that was what I was seeking, because I didn't want to play around with any feedlot type stuff, especially if I'm going to be eating raw. So, well, that I didn't plan on. That just kind of happened because, all right, so September 30th was the first day of this. I had a few people help me out along the way with, getting money together and resources to help me do this. But so I drove to the farm market. I only drive in the daytime now too, because oncoming headlights at night kill me. But, so I drove out to Skillman. I got beef liver. I got a bunch of marrow bones. I got, I think, a brisket, some short ribs. I went right for the fatty stuff. Now I'm one of those guys that adds like I don't know, about 180 grams of fat trimmings and suet to bone broth a day and just downs that. But when I was first starting this out, liver, I figured this is one thing I never did on paleo, but let me try this because all of the food people are saying this stuff is like no other. So I figured the easiest way to get this stuff down, I cut it into like thin strips and then I would cut it across into little tiny pieces and I would just spoonfuls water down it. And that was how I did it for about the first 2 months. But before I get ahead of myself, in, I don't know, 2 weeks, I stopped wearing prescription eyeglasses. In 3 weeks, I was like running up and down flights of stairs again. Like, I used to have to take one step at a time, you know, like an arthritic grandpa at 31, 32 years old. And I just started feeling so good. I never wanted to stop feeling like this ever again. So the idea of ever eating a vegetable kind of just, like, fruits I do miss sometimes, whatever, but like vegetables, like starches, like just the mental clarity I developed. Like, and mind you, I have 3 lesions on my spine, like the cervical spine. And my brain on an MRI, now that all the white and gray matter has cleared, it looks like Swiss cheese. You would be amazed I'm lucid enough to have this conversation right now. It really is a horrifying image. And so I just kept on with that. I've reintroduced some things, but they're all meat. Like, I eat raw oysters in the morning for zinc and vitamin D and stuff like that. Another thing I'm into, I wake up in the mornings and I watch sunrises because we have those UV receptors in our eyes that apparently do something to stimulate mitochondria. I forget exactly how it works. I just listen to people in that mitochondriac rabbit hole, and, you know, that's why I'm wearing these funny glasses in which you're seeing your reflection, for which I do apologize. But earlier on, though, like in my 20s, I was a total schizoaffective mess. Like, completely schizoaffective. Like, I showed symptoms of that, and they were consistent. I was out of my freaking mind. Like, thinking that, you know, I can't put it to words, but it was really bad. I was hospitalized several times on psychiatric type stuff. Oh, I digress. The whole psych thing, because I have been in and out of psych holds since I was 20, all because of the terrible gut health, and in doing so, being treated with terrible, terrible drugs like quetiapine and trazodone and other things that cause terrible tardive dyskinesia. Like, I used to shake like that. My life has improved on pretty much every imaginable dimension. I'm of more sound mind, body, and spirit than I've perhaps ever been. And I'm turning 33 on the 10th. And that's, you know, with MS, with Lyme, with epilepsy, with Epstein-Barr, and with a diagnosis of schizoaffective. But when I saw the psychiatrist that my MS guy referred me to, you know, he evaluated me. He's like, "You're neither depressed nor schizoaffective." Like, what? And I told him about how I eat and how much better I feel doing this. Like, it's been just absolutely transformative. I figured things would improve. I couldn't have dreamt they would have gone this well, though. When I learned that the alpha wolf, though, goes right for the liver and right for the kidneys, when it scores a kill, that was the day I decided, okay, kidneys are also going to be breakfast every day, too. So I don't know, for the last like 4 months, it's been every morning liver, kidney at minimum. And then heart, as long as I've got it, it's been in there for the last few weeks. I love heart. And I'm almost out of bison spleen. I just had a bunch of those. I ran out of lamb testicle last weekend. Those are great. Those are actually like the least offensive of any organ meats I've yet tried. The least offensive. I heard amazing things about adrenal glands. I have some of them coming. I have some thymus coming and pancreas as well.
That sounds like a whole lot of stuff going on there, but the lamb testicles, I don't think so. But George, okay, you talked a little bit about some of the food that you do eat. Could you just kind of run down what a typical day looks like for you? Like how do you implement your diet? And when you first started, did you have any transitional issues?
As far as transitional issues go, not really. And that kind of really surprised me because I was a heavy coffee drinker from the time I was 21 until, like, I was drinking coffee until so the second day of doing this, after 2 mornings of eating raw beef liver, I threw my coffee up. And I haven't touched it since. Except for this one day when I ate some Costco bacon and got horribly bloated and horribly constipated. So I had a cup of coffee to try passing this, and it didn't do anything. It just killed my joints. Like, I became like the grandpa on the steps again for a day. I mean, it passed pretty quickly, but yeah, coffee's really bad news. The liver, I think, is the reason I didn't really have any transitional problems. But what a typical day looks like for me now, I'm sure we talked about the organ smoothies in the emails at some point. So I've been doing that a lot. What I'll do is, I know, don't be squeamish on me now. So what I'll do is I can email you a photo of the cutting board with, I think I have a photo with 5 different organs on it, but I'll cut them up. And because I learned as a junkie way back when, the more surface area you can get on a substance, the more bioavailable it'll be. So I figured this will probably work too with the organ meats. Let me try this out. So I one morning decided to blend them. Like, I put them all in the blender, like 2 to 3 scoops of bone broth, like half a cap of Redmond salt, and just blend it until it's kind of liquidy and drink it. And you get like high from this. I mean, your mood just takes off. Today I had one of those in the morning. I had salmon roe this morning. I also had oysters this morning. I eat oysters pretty much every day. The sea oysters, not animal oysters, as they're sometimes called. I'll usually eat twice a day now. When I first started doing this, I was doing 3 meals a day because, I mean, I weigh 175 pounds now. When I began this, I think I was 155. Like, I was and I'm 6 feet. So, I was pretty emaciated. And there's like very little fat on me now too, and I eat copious amounts of saturated fat a day. I'll make it a point to have 2 bowls of bone broth, and I'll add a bunch of suet to each one and melt that down in the hot bone broth and just suck that down. I'll do that a few times a day. I also pressure cook my bones until they're soft enough to eat. I don't like eat an entire bone at a time. I'll like gnaw little pieces off of it. It's apparently one of the only natural ways you can get boron, and I don't know what else is in there, but I feel great when I eat bones. If you can't tell by how I keep cracking smiles, I feel awesome now. But yeah, I will eat egg yolks if I can get them soy free. I will eat egg yolks. I tried butter like a month ago, and it's butter's like another drug-like food, definitely. Like I was getting yawny and sneezy and stuff like that coming off of it. I mean, it like beta casomorphin is quite a chemical on your brain. I will give it that. My hat's off to it. I love, but like I love the stuff, but I can't really play with it. I miss it. It's always gonna have a place in my heart, but it's not something I fare well with. Um, this is my preferred type of water. Wait. And I get it in the glass bottles. I've been hoarding glass bottles so I can, when I do find a legit spring, I can fill them all in glass because I'm paranoid about plastic now. I'm paranoid about chemicals that are in shampoos and body washes and stuff like that. I wash myself with beef tallow. Your skin will never be softer or more luminescent for anyone watching this and curious about taking that walk on the wild side and washing yourself with animal fat like they did in the olden times. But it works great. Trying to think of what other bases I didn't cover. But yeah, I mean, if my whole thing with this, and the reason I'm so vocal about it, is because if I can pull it back from a lifetime of just losing it, slowly but surely losing it up here, a lot of chronic diseases too, like several of them, and pulling it back from the mental stuff, because my generation is, one, they're completely nuts, like out of their mind for the most part. And like the plant-based dogma that is so omnipresent these days is not helping. I learned firsthand, when you have an unhealthy gut, you have an unhealthy mind. Like the axiom is that simple. And
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. So George, you mentioned quite a bit about some of your improvements, but could you just run through it again and kind of hit the highlights and really give us a good feeling of how your life has changed so much?
well, I can see again. That's for starters. I'm not blind anymore. I can read a book and comprehend it and retain the information inside. That's something I couldn't do. Um, Anything I need to get done, I get it done. I don't like the story of my life with the MS for that year was I came, I saw, I forgot what I was doing. Now I have to pee. That was my life. Now, no, like I can stand tall again. I can dance. I can smile. I can joke. I can laugh. My spirit is light. Like things are funny to me again. Things don't really bother me anymore. Like all this whacked out stuff in the world really is not phasing me. Like I used to have such existential dread day to day, and it used to plague me to the point that I turned to drugs, and I drank a lot when in my 20s too. Like I was a complete mess, and little did I know it would have been this simple. Like, oh my God, oh, I could have saved so much time and so much suffering and done such better things with myself, but better late than never, they say, I guess. But yeah, Like, I can stand tall. I'm not emaciated, skinny. Like, I don't know if you can see it through the hoodie, but like my arm is like cut. And I've never had that once. Like, there's abs on me now. Oh, my libido came back. I was impotent for an entire year. Impotent. Like, Viagra wouldn't even work some days. Like, it was bad. That was what led me down the suicide path, really. That was, because I was like, if I can't even love my woman, like what am I doing? Like, it's amazing how desperate things got. Like, in human terms, the suffering was incredible. All right, so there were constant aches, pains, spasms, neuropathy. I was taking at this, well, not this time, probably November of last year. I was taking double the maximum allowed prescribed dosage of gabapentin for nerve pain. I got off of that stuff a few months ago. Like, I tapered it down this last year, but then, like, when I went carnivore, it just, like, phew. And there was a minimal come down. When I quit smoking, the withdrawal was just sweaty hands. That was it. Sneeze here and there and things like that, but life is just so much easier and so much better, and you stay on such a better wavelength when you eat like this. Like, well-sourced animal foods, salt and water. Like, I really have never been more confident in the notion that I could live in the woods somewhere with a bow and just hunt game and be perfectly well nourished. I've never been more convinced of that idea. I just never could have thought I would feel this. I didn't think it was possible to feel like this, and I just thought it was beyond me. I thought I was just born in the wrong place, wrong time, and that was just gonna be my life forever. And yeah, so, and then you develop new habits. Like, every morning I try every morning that the weather was really nasty yesterday. Today, thankfully, we had sun in the morning. The sunrise between like 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., like, the taller your shadow is in the morning sunlight, I forget how exactly it works, but I think that's when there's the most infrared. So outdoors, I never have glasses on, ever. Like, I always take in all the UV light I can. It just, you feel so much more energized. I'll also take my shirt off and I will be like, I'll roll my sweatpants up to above my knees when I go outside and do this. I'll be in bare feet in the grass. I'll usually do the Wim Hof breathing stuff when I'm out there doing that. That's another thing I've gotten into. I take cold showers now too. That's a recent addition to my life, but one I've really come to enjoy. I never thought I'd be capable of cold showers too. The first one I tried taking a few years ago, I was just like, no, but no, now you feel quite charged up after one of those. I love it.
Well, I'm going to take your word for that, because it makes me kind of angry when I get in cold water. So I'm like, it's going to take me a long time to get adjusted. But George, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's amazing what is improved in your life, and I am so very happy for you. And so thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me tell it.
Absolutely. Bye, George.
Have a good one now.